Chicago didn't notice the tear at first. It started small, maybe the width of a coin, hanging 3 stories above North Michigan Avenue. Just a distortion in the air that caught sunlight wrong. A few people pointed phones at it, thinking special effect may be guerrilla marketing for some streaming show. One woman live-streamed it to 47 followers, her voice bright with curiosity rather than alarm. Then the tear widened, not slowly, not with warning. It ripped outward like fabric under too much stress edges, crackling with energy that tasted like ozone and something older. The sound hit a second later, a wet tearing that made teeth ache and stomachs drop. People who'd been filming now backed away. A businessman in an expensive suit actually dropped his briefcase. Mark Grayson hit the scene doing 200 miles per hour, boots scraping asphalt as he braked. The yellow and blue of his suit caught afternoon light. Goggles already down. He'd been halfway across the city when Cecil's alert came through, just the address. And 2 words, spatial anomaly. The crowd scattered as he landed. Smart. Whatever that thing was, it didn't belong to Earth's usual catalog of problems. Mark had fought Martians, Viltrumites, things from dimensions that made his head hurt. This felt different. Wrong in a way that bypassed logic and went straight to instinct. A figure stepped through the widening gap, not stepped, emerged. Like being born from nothing into something. Angstrom Levy looked worse than the last 3 times Mark had seen him. The scarring across his skull had deepened veins pulsing with that distinctive pink light that meant he'd been pulling power from too many realities at once. The cybernetic brace on his spine whirred as he moved, supporting weight his body couldn't manage alone. His dark coat hung open, revealing the breathing apparatus at his throat. "Levy," Mark's voice carried across the intersection. "Close it." Angstrom smiled. Not the expression of someone caught. The expression of someone who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. "The next time you forget my name, it will be because you're dead." The words came out calm, practiced, like he'd been rehearsing. "But today I want you to remember everything." The tear behind him pulsed. Something else was coming through. Mark moved forward, fists already clenched. 40 feet separated them. 30. He could cross that in under a second grab. Levy forced the portal closed before. The thing that stepped it through wasn't tall, childlike proportions. Smooth pink skin, white baggy pants held up by a black belt with a silver buckle. No shirt, no shoes. Stubby antenna-like projections from its head. It looked almost cute if you ignored the way it moved, joints bending in directions that suggested bones were optional, not mandatory. Kid Buu looked around Chicago's skyline with eyes that held no curiosity, no intelligence in the way humans measured such things. Just appetite. The kind of hunger that didn't distinguish between food and entertainment and destruction, because to it, they were the same category. It giggled. The sound made Mark's skin crawl. High-pitched, delighted, completely divorced from anything happening around it. Like a toddler who'd just discovered something fascinating and was about to pull it apart to see how it worked. "What the hell is that?" Mark didn't take his eyes off the pink creature. Angstrom's smile widened. "Proof that you're not special, Mark. Proof that in infinite realities, there are infinite things stronger than Viltrumites. Infinite things that make your father look like an insect." The creature Buu Angstrom had called it Buu in the briefing. Mark was definitely not getting turned its attention to a nearby car. Not with focus. More like noticing a toy that happened to be within reach. It poked the hood with one finger. The vehicle compressed like aluminum foil metal, screaming as it folded in on itself. The driver inside screamed too, pinned, but not dead, not yet. Kid Buu cocked its head at the noise, that same vacant smile plastered across its face. Mark moved. He covered the distance in a heartbeat, shoulder-checking Buu away from the car. The impact should have sent the creature flying. Should have at least knocked it off balance. Instead, it was like hitting a wall made of rubber, and concrete simultaneously. It gave just enough to absorb the force, then snapped back. Buu looked at Mark now. Really looked. Those eyes held something that might have been interest. Then it laughed again, and the sound was glass breaking in Mark's ears. The punch came from nowhere. 1 second, Buu was standing there. The next, its arm had stretched to 3 times normal length and slammed into Mark's ribs with force that cracked bone and sent him through the front of a Starbucks. Glass exploded inward. The barista screamed. Mark tasted blood and coffee grounds. He pushed himself up, ribs grinding, already healing but not fast enough. Outside, Kid Buu had lost interest in him. It was looking up now, head tilted back at an angle that would have snapped a human neck. Looking at the buildings, at the sky, at the geometry of civilization that humans had built and maintained and lived inside. Mark pulled himself through the shattered window frame. Everyone out now. People ran. Good. The crowd that had been filming was already gone, leaving behind phones and bags, and one stroller that someone had abandoned in pure panic. Mark grabbed it, saw it was empty, felt relief and rage in equal measure. Cecil's voice crackled through the comm. Invincible report. Spatial breach on Michigan Avenue. Angstrom Levy opened a portal. Something came through. Mark kept his eyes on Buu, who was now poking a fire hydrant like a child with a stick. I need backup. That portal doesn't move you around here. Cecil cut in, voice tight. It moves you out. Another Earth. Same coordinates. If Levy's still got it open. Kid Buu's hand sank into the hydrant. Not broke it. Sank into it. Like the metal was clay. Water should have been spraying everywhere. Instead, the creature pulled its hand back out, holding something small and dense. The hydrant crushed into a sphere the size of a baseball medal, folded in on itself until it steamed. Kid Buu looked at it for half a second, then flicked it away. The compressed ball punched through a storefront window 3 blocks down. I need you to evacuate this entire district. Mark finished. Now. The creature turned back to Mark, smiled again, that same empty, delighted expression. Then it raised one hand and began gathering energy. The ball of light that formed in its palm was pink and white and growing exponentially. Energy dense and heavy in a way that made Mark's instincts scream wrong. The air around it distorted like heat shimmer, but the pressure felt invasive, like it was pulling at the space between atoms. Mark could taste metal on his tongue. The realization hit like ice water. This thing wasn't testing him, wasn't posturing or making demands or doing any of the things villains did before the real fight started. It was just going to erase the block, the district, maybe the city. And it would do it with the same casual indifference it had shown the car and the hydrant and everything else. Because that's what it was. Not evil in the way Mark had fought before, not cruel or sadistic or even particularly angry, just hungry. And everything was food. Mark launched himself forward, praying his speed would be enough. Kid Buu released the blast. The world turned white. Mark hit the energy sphere mid-flight, trying to redirect it, trying to tank it, trying anything that would keep it from hitting the buildings where people were still evacuating. The force drove him down through asphalt, through the subway tunnel beneath, through bedrock. His vision went red, then black, then red again. Ribs not just cracked now, but shattered. Left arm numb, right shoulder dislocated. He could hear Cecil screaming orders through the comm, could hear sirens, could hear the distinctive sonic boom of someone else flying in at speed, probably Eve or one of the Guardians. The blast dissipated. Mark pulled himself out of the crater, smoking, bleeding, healing too slowly because that hadn't been a normal attack, had been something that fought his Viltrumite regeneration like poison fights an immune system. Above ground, Kid Buu was looking at the result of its work with that same childlike fascination. A perfect sphere had been carved out of Michigan Avenue buildings, sliced clean cars and street and subway tunnel, all just gone. No rubble, no debris, just absence. And in that absence, Mark could see bodies, or parts of them. The people who hadn't made it out in time. Kid Buu clapped its hands together, delighted. Then it looked up at the sky, and Mark saw the creature's expression shift. Not to rage or focus or anything comprehensible, just a kind of bored curiosity, like a child who'd finished playing with one toy and was ready for the next. It began gathering energy again, but this time, the sphere was bigger, growing faster. And Kid Buu wasn't aiming at a building or a street. It was aiming at everything. Cecil's voice cut through the calm, stripped of its usual control. Invincible. I'm reading energy signatures equivalent to a pause. A recalculation that Mark could hear in the silence. Get everyone off the planet. Now. Mark tasted copper, tasted failure. There's no time. Then buy us some. Kid Buu's sphere had grown to the size of a house, then a city block. Still expanding, still building, and the creature holding it looked like it was having the time of its life. Mark flew straight up, pulling himself level with the attack. He could see Angstrom in his peripheral vision backing away toward the portal. Could see the flash of red that meant Eve had arrived. Could see GDA dropships descending from low orbit far too slow, far too late. The energy sphere pulsed. Kid Buu smiled at Mark one more time and released it toward Earth's core. Mark had fought armies, had fought his father, had taken hits that would have vaporized mountains. This was different. This was standing in front of an avalanche and trying to stop it with outstretched hands. But what else could he do? He launched himself upward, pulling every ounce of speed his Viltrumite blood could give. 40,000 feet per second. 50. The air screamed around him, skin heating from friction goggles already cracked and cutting into his face. Kid Buu tracked his approach with those empty eyes and smiled. The sphere pulsed once, twice, building to critical mass. Mark stretched out his hands. The creature released the blast toward Earth's core. Everything turned white. The impact wasn't sound. It was pressure. Reality compressing into a single point where Mark's hands met the sphere, every molecule in his body screaming that this was wrong. This was too much. This shouldn't be possible. But here it was anyway. His left shoulder failed first. The joint collapsed under pressure. No bone could withstand tissue-tearing structure, turning to pulp and powder. Then his ribs, his right femur. Consciousness flickered like a dying bulb on-off on each flash, bringing new data his brain didn't want to process. Falling, tumbling through superheated air, skin peeling. The taste of his own blood mixed with something chemical, something that didn't belong in Earth's atmosphere. He hit bedrock 3 miles down, bounced. The world spun. His Viltrumite healing factor kicked in desperately, trying to knit bone that kept breaking under residual heat and pressure from the blast. Too slow. Too little. Mark forced his eyes open. The sky was cracking, not metaphorically. Actual fissures spreading across the blue like glass under stress. Through the gaps, he could see something worse. Darkness that wasn't space, wasn't night, just absence. The kind of nothing that made his hindbrain scream to look away. Mark. Eve's voice in his calm, ragged with horror. Mark, can you hear me? He tried to answer, coughed red instead. Above him, Kid Buu hung in the air exactly where it had been when it released the attack. Still smiling. Still watching Earth die with the same detached curiosity a child might show when pulling wings off a fly. The pink creature tilted its head, then giggled that same high-pitched sound that scraped against sanity. The fissures widened. Mark pushed himself up. His left arm hung useless bones grinding. Didn't matter. He could still fly. The ground beneath him lurched. Not an earthquake, not tectonic shift. The planet itself was coming apart at a fundamental level. Structural integrity compromised by an attack that had punched through to the outer core. Magma fountained up through newly formed canyons. The horizon buckled and bent in ways geometry didn't permit. Cecil's voice cut through every frequency. All stations, evacuation protocol Omega. Repeat Omega. Move now or die where you stand. Mark launched himself skyward, each beat of flight sending fresh agony through his regenerating shoulder. He had to get to the population centers, had to pull people out before. A hand caught his ankle. Eve materialized next to him, her matter manipulation already active, pink energy crackling around her fingers. Her face was streaked with dust and tears. You can't save them. Let go. There's no time. She yanked him toward the shimmer in the air, 500 yards west. Angstrom's portal still open, reality bleeding into reality. Cecil's orders. I don't care about his orders. Mark wrenched free, ignored the spike of pain. Below them, Chicago was sliding into the crack that had been Michigan Avenue. Buildings toppled like dominoes. He could hear screaming, even at this altitude. Eve grabbed him again, both hands this time, and the desperation in her grip was what stopped him. We have 40 people through the gate. 40, Mark. If we don't go now, they die too. Everyone dies. The math was brutal, simple. 40 versus millions. He'd always hated math, but Eve was already pulling him. Using her power to create a path through the debris field, solidifying air into platforms they could push off from. Mark's healing had progressed enough that he could fly under his own power, but barely. His vision kept graying out, cells burning from the inside. They reached the portal in 15 seconds. It was wrong up close. A wound in space shaped like a doorway, edges rippling with Angstrom's distinctive pink energy. Through it, Mark could see shapes moving, people GD. Personnel, someone in a medical uniform trying to triage injuries with equipment that looked half-melted. And beyond them, standing in the middle of what looked like an empty field, Cecil Stedman. Waiting. Through, Eve said. Now. Mark hesitated, turned back. Chicago was gone. The cracks had widened into chasms, continents fragmenting like dropped porcelain. Somewhere over what used to be the Atlantic, he could see the curve of Earth's mantle exposed to vacuum, glowing red hot. The oceans were boiling off into steam. Atmosphere peeling away in strips. 6 billion people. He couldn't even hear it. 6 billion deaths made no sound out here. Kid Buu chose that moment to notice the portal. Its head swiveled toward the shimmer expression, shifting to something that might have been interest. It started drifting closer, lazy and unhurried like a child following a butterfly. Move. Cecil's voice transmitted through the portal itself, stripped of all pretense. Levy, close it the second they're through. Eve shoved Mark toward the opening. He stumbled through, felt the sickening lurch of transitioning between realities, tasted copper and ozone and something like burnt sugar. His boots hit solid ground on the other side grass, actually grass wet from recent rain. Eve came through half a second later. Behind her, through the closing gap, Mark saw Earth's final moment. The planet didn't explode. It collapsed. Structural integrity finally giving way. Mass condensing inward before the rebound sent fragments spinning out into the void. The moon caught in the gravitational chaos, shattered against what was left of the crust. Then the portal snapped shut. Silence. Mark stood in a field under a gray sky. Rain misting down. 43 people clustered together, most of them bleeding, all of them in shock. GDA personnel moving through the group with scanners and medical supplies that wouldn't be enough, could never be enough. And Cecil standing apart from the rest, watching Mark with those calculating eyes. Welcome to Earth Adjacent, the older man said. We're standing in Iowa, or what Iowa is on this reality's version of our planet. He gestured at the field, the distant tree line. Angstrom's portals don't move you through space, just sideways. Same coordinates, different world. Geography never lines up perfectly, but it's close enough. Mark's fist was moving before he made the conscious decision to throw the punch. Cecil didn't even flinch. Didn't raise his hands, just stood there as Mark's knuckles stopped an inch from his nose, held back by the last shred of self-control Mark had left. "Feel better?" Cecil asked. 6 billion people are dead, yes. No emotion, no apology, just fact. And we're not. 43 isn't 6 billion, but it's what we have. So that's what we work with. "You son of a..." "Mr. Stedman?" One of the GDA techs, a woman Mark vaguely recognized from headquarters briefings. "Residual dimensional energy. The portal's closed, but there's still feedback." Cecil turned to her. "Specific. The breach isn't stable. Whatever came through." She glanced at Mark and Eve like she was afraid to say it out loud. "It might be able to follow the signature. Not immediately, but given time." "How much time?" "Unknown. Could be hours, could be days." Cecil processed this in silence. Then Levy, front and center. Angstrom stumbled forward, supported by 2 GDA soldiers. The cybernetic brace on his spine was sparking damaged during the transit. Blood trickled from his nose, but he was conscious, aware, and smiling. "You want my help," Angstrom said, not a question. "I want your cooperation." Cecil's tone could have frozen nitrogen. "You opened this door. You brought that thing to our world. You're going to help me keep what's left of humanity alive, or I will make you wish you died with the rest of them." "Threats?" Angstrom's smile widened. "From the man who can barely keep 40 people organized." Mark moved. Eve caught his arm, but he shook her off, crossed the distance to Angstrom in 3 strides. Grabbed the front of the man's torn shirt, lifted him off the ground despite the protests from his own broken body. 6 billion, Mark said, voice raw. "Say it." Angstrom met his eyes. "The next time you forget my name, it will be because you're dead." "I told you that. Remember?" The smile never wavered. "This is just the beginning, Mark. You wanted to see what else was out there, what other realities held. Well, now you know." Mark's grip tightened. Would be so easy to just put him down. Cecil's voice. Command, not request. Mark held on for another 3 seconds. Long enough to see fear flicker behind Angstrom's eyes. Then he dropped the man, let the GDA soldiers catch him before he hit the mud. "Get him stabilized," Cecil told them, "and locked down. No unsupervised portal access. If he so much as thinks about opening a gate without my authorization, you have standing orders to shoot him in the spine." The soldiers dragged Angstrom away. The man was laughing, quiet and bitter, but laughing nonetheless. Eve appeared at Mark's elbow. She wasn't looking at him, wasn't looking at anyone. Just staring at the space where the portal had been, where on the other side their world had died. "How many did you save?" Mark asked her quietly. 12. I got 12 people out before." Her voice cracked. "I had a wall up. Thermal shielding, they were right behind me, and then the ground just opened. I tried to." "I know. Do you..." She turned to face him, and there was something wild in her expression. "Because I can manipulate matter, Mark. I can restructure atoms. I can build walls and shields and pathways, and I saved 12 people. 12 out of millions in my sector. Eve, don't." She stepped back. "Just don't." Cecil was addressing the group now, voice carrying across the field. "We don't have shelter. We don't have supplies beyond what GDA managed to evacuate. We have maybe 6 hours before hypothermia becomes a factor for the civilians." He paused, scanned the faces. "Here's what we do have. We're alive. We have knowledge. We have each other. And as long as that's true, the species continues." Someone in the crowd, Mark couldn't see who, started crying. Quiet, broken sobs that spread like infection. Within seconds, half the survivors were weeping openly. Mark sank to his knees in the wet grass. His Viltrumite healing had closed the worst of the damage, but exhaustion dragged at him like gravity turned up to 11. He stared at his hands that had tried to stop a planet killer and failed. Cecil walked over, stood above him. You're not going to like the next part. What next part? Angstrom's tech specialist confirmed it. The dimensional bleed is two-way. Cecil's shadow fell across Mark's face. That thing destroyed our Earth, but it came from somewhere. And if it followed us once, Mark understood. Finish the sentence. It can follow us again. We need distance. Need to get these people somewhere defensible while I figure out how to close the bleed permanently. Cecil paused. And we need you functional. So get up Invincible. Grieve on your own time. It should have made Mark angry. Should have triggered another near-miss punch. Instead, he just felt hollow. He stood. Across the field, one of the GDA soldiers was setting up a portable communication array, trying to tap into this reality's satellite network. Another was taking inventory of medical supplies. A third was talking to a teenage girl who wouldn't stop shaking, handing her an emergency blanket. 43 people. Mark had fought alongside armies, had protected millions, had stood between Earth and annihilation more times than he could count. He'd never felt more useless in his life. Sir, the tech from earlier voice urgent. Energy signature. Same type as the breach. It's faint, but it's there. Cecil's expression didn't change. Distance, can't pinpoint, but it's active, like something's testing the connection. Everyone in the field went still. Mark felt it too, now that he was paying attention to pressure against reality, like fingers pushing at thin fabric from the other side. Kid Buu somewhere out in the dimensional void hunting. Cecil started issuing orders. Pack everything. We move in 5 minutes. Levy, you're going to open us a path somewhere else. Somewhere that thing can't track. Angstrom, restrained between two soldiers, actually laughed out loud. You think you can run from that? You think anywhere is safe? I think, Cecil said quietly, that you're going to help us find out. Or I'm going to leave you here as bait and see how long you last. The smile vanished from Angstrom's face. Mark watched the sky, watched for tears in the fabric, watched for that distinctive pink energy that meant something was coming through. The rain kept falling, and somewhere in the space between realities, something that used to be a planet drifted in pieces, still cooling, already forgotten by the creature that had killed it. 43 people left. The math hadn't gotten any better. Cecil made lists. Water first. The rain had stopped an hour ago, leaving puddles in the Iowa grass that wouldn't last. He had 2 GDA techs working on a filtration setup scavenged from what little equipment had made it through the breach. Not enough for 43 people long-term. Enough for maybe 3 days if they rationed hard. Shelter second. Already failing. Temperature was dropping and half the survivors wore office clothes. Summer weight useless against coming night. Eve had volunteered to create thermal barriers, but she was swaying on her feet, skin-pale eyes unfocused. Push her now, and she'd collapse. He needed her functional tomorrow more than comfortable today. Medical third. 2 doctors in the group, both trauma surgeons, neither with proper supplies. They'd set up triage under a makeshift canopy, torn GDA jumpsuit fabric stretched between stakes Eve had transmuted from dirt. 7 critical cases, 12 serious. The rest walking wounded or shock. Communication. Fourth, his techs had jury-rigged a satellite uplink to this reality's network, tapping civilian infrastructure. No encryption, no security clearance. Just raw access to a world that didn't know they existed yet. He'd deal with the diplomatic nightmare later. Right now, he needed to know if this Earth had resources he could requisition. Security last. Because what were they securing against the dimensional bleed? You couldn't post guards against reality itself tearing open. He stood apart from the main group, rain-soaked grass soaking through his shoes, and ran the numbers again. Came to the same conclusion. They were going to lose people. Mr. Stedman. The GDA tech Rodriguez, he thought, though half his personnel files were ash on a dead planet, approached carefully. We've confirmed local time and date. This reality is running about 6 months behind ours. Same general geopolitical landscape, but I don't care about their politics. Cecil cut in. I care about empty buildings, stored supplies, and how long before someone notices dimensional refugees camping in their field. Rodriguez swallowed. There's an old grain silo complex 12 miles northwest, abandoned for 2 years according to local property records. It has, how do you know it's abandoned here? Satellite imagery, heat signatures, no activity in the structure for months. Cecil processed this. 12 miles was walkable for the healthy, would kill the wounded. We need transport. Angstrom could... No. The word came out flat. Final. We don't use Levy unless there's no alternative. Every time he opens a door, he risks leaving a trail that thing can follow. Then we walk. Or we stay here and hope local authorities don't investigate the energy spike from our arrival. Cecil looked at the huddled mass of survivors. Someone was crying again. Someone was always crying. A teenage boy sat alone, staring at nothing. One of the doctors was performing CPR on a woman whose chest had been crushed during the evacuation. Futile effort. The ribs were powder. Get me a vehicle manifest for this region, Cecil said. Farms this size usually have trucks. Find one with keys or hotwire it. We move the wounded first, then supplies, then everyone else. 2 trips maximum. Rodriguez nodded and left. Mark appeared at Cecil's shoulder like a ghost. The kid's healing factor had closed the visible damage, but there was something broken in the way he held himself. Shoulders too rigid, jaw too tight. You're planning to steal from these people, Mark said. Not a question. I'm planning to survive. They didn't do anything wrong. This is their world, their resources. Cecil turned to face him. Yes. And we're taking them because the alternative is watching our people freeze or starve. You want to debate ethics, Invincible, fine, after everyone's fed. Mark's fist clenched, unclenched. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Where's Levy? Secured. I want to see him. No, that wasn't a request. Cecil met his eyes without blinking. You go near Angstrom right now, you'll kill him. I know it. You know it. And as satisfying as that would be, he's the only person who can navigate dimensional coordinates without killing everyone in transit. He paused. So no, you don't get to see him. Mark stared for 3 seconds. Then he turned and walked away, fists still clenched, shoulders shaking with the effort of not turning back. Cecil watched him go. Made another mental note. Mark was fracturing, still holding together, but the cracks were widening. Give it another day, maybe 2, and the kid would either collapse completely or do something stupid and irreversible. Both outcomes were problems. Eve approached from the medical area, swaying slightly. The woman with the crushed ribs just died. I know. Her name was Patricia Chen. She worked in GDA logistics. She had a daughter at college. Eve's voice was steady, but her hands shook. I tried to restructure the bone fragments, but she was too far gone and I didn't. You did what you could. Did I? The question came out bitter. Because 12 people isn't enough, Cecil. 12 out of thousands in my sector isn't. Stop. He said it quietly, but she stopped. You want to fall apart? Do it later. Right now, I need you to create a thermal shell around the medical area. Something that'll hold heat through the night. Can you do that? She stared at him. You're a bastard. Frequently. Can you do it? Yes. Then do it. After that, get some sleep. Real sleep, not collapsed from exhaustion sleep. She left without another word. Cecil went back to his lists. The dimensional bleed was worsening. His techs had recorded 3 separate micro-fractures in the past hour. Tiny tears in reality that sealed themselves almost immediately, but left residue. Energy signatures that matched the original breach. The thing on the other side was testing the barrier. feeling for weak points. Eventually, it would find one. They needed distance. Needed to hop realities until they found one far enough off the trail that the creature couldn't track. But every hop risked destabilizing the group further, risked losing people in transition, risked Angstrom making a mistake with coordinates and dropping them into a reality with no breathable air or one already dead. The math was brutal either way. Rodriguez returned with good news and bad. Good, she'd found a farm truck keys in the ignition half-tank of gas. Bad, the farm had people, a family, asleep but present. "Leave them alone," Cecil ordered. "Take the truck. If they wake up and see us, we're disaster relief from the government. Earthquake survivors. Whatever sells. Don't engage unless forced. And if forced, then you're very persuasive and very sorry for the inconvenience." The truck made 2 trips. The wounded went first packed into the bed like cargo, because there wasn't room for dignity. Then supplies, what little they had. Medical equipment, water containers, the portable comm array. Food amounted to 6 granola bars and someone's half-eaten sandwich. The rest walked. It took 4 hours to reach the silo. 4 hours of stumbling through darkness, following the truck's taillights, with people collapsing every mile and having to be carried. They lost 1 man to a heart attack halfway there. Nobody had the energy to grieve properly. They just kept walking. The silo complex was exactly what Rodriguez had promised. 3 massive grain storage towers, a processing building with broken windows, and a small office structure that still had intact walls and a roof. Cold, dark, smelling of mildew and rat droppings. It was perfect. Cecil had people sleeping within the hour. Posted guards, 2 GDA soldiers, both injured but functional. Set the doctors up in the office building with what passed for medical supplies. Had Eve seal the worst gaps in the walls before she finally allowed herself to pass out in a corner. He found Mark on the roof of the tallest silo, staring at the sky. "You should sleep," Cecil said. "I can't." Mark's voice was hollow. "Every time I close my eyes, I see it. The cracks spreading. The people I didn't reach. The ones who were right there and I was too slow or too weak or too human." Mark flinched like he'd been struck. "You tried to tank a planet killer," Cecil continued. "You failed. Not because you weren't strong enough, because that's not a problem strength solves." He moved to stand beside Mark, looking out over dark Iowa farmland. "You want someone to blame? Blame Levy for opening the door. Blame me for not having contingencies. Blame the universe for being cruel. But blaming yourself won't bring them back. I know that. Do you? Because you're acting like a man who thinks he deserves to suffer? Maybe I do. Maybe." Cecil pulled out a cigarette, realized he had no lighter, put it away. But suffering doesn't help anyone. Being functional does. So tomorrow when I need you to help secure this facility or scout the area or deal with whatever crisis comes next, are you going to be functional? Mark didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was raw. "Where is he?" "Levy's in the processing building, basement level. 2 guards sedated and wearing a spinal inhibitor that'll paralyze him from the neck down if he tries any unauthorized neural activity." Cecil watched Mark's expression. "You still want to see him?" "Yes." "To do what?" "Talk. That's not what your fists say." Mark's hands were clenched again, knuckles white. He forced them open with visible effort. I need to understand. Why us? Why that thing? What was the point of..." His voice cracked. "There had to be a point." "There wasn't." Cecil said it simply, brutally. "Levy wanted revenge on you. The creature wanted to destroy. Those are the only points. Everything else is just collateral damage." He paused. "But if you need to hear it from him, I'll allow supervised access. Tomorrow. After you've slept. After you've proven to me you can control yourself." Mark stared at the horizon for a long moment, then nodded once and left the roof. Cecil stayed. Below in the makeshift camp, someone started a small fire despite the risk of detection. Desperate for warmth. Human nature. Soon others clustered around it, hands outstretched, faces gaunt in the flickering light. 42 people now. Patricia Chen buried under Iowa soil. His satellite uplink crackled. Rodriguez's voice came through thin and distorted. "Sir, energy readings. Same signature as before. Location? Can't pinpoint, but it's closer. The tears are forming faster, bigger." Cecil watched the fire below. Watched people who'd lost everything huddled together because that's what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They kept going because stopping meant death. "Prep Levy," he said quietly. "We're moving again." "Where?" "Somewhere it can't follow." "Sir, with respect, I don't think that place exists." Cecil considered this, accepted it as possible truth. "Then we find somewhere it takes longer to reach. Buy ourselves time to figure out how to close the bleed permanently." He cut the connection. Somewhere in the dimensional void, Kid Buu was hunting. Not with intelligence or malice, just with the simple persistence of a predator that had caught a scent. And the scent was leading here. Cecil went down to wake Angstrom. They had maybe 6 hours. The first reality they jumped to had fires. Not forest fires, not accidents. Deliberate blazes where cities should have been pillars of smoke reaching into a sky the wrong shade of green. Angstrom opened the breach the survivors stumbled through, and within 30 seconds, Rodriguez was reporting radiation levels incompatible with human survival beyond 72 hours. "Back," Stedman ordered. "Now." They lost 3 in the scramble. One elderly man who couldn't move fast enough. 2 teenagers who panicked and ran the wrong direction into the contaminated zone before anyone could grab them. The breach sealed behind 40 living bodies instead of 43. 42 now after Patricia Chen. 39 after the fire world. Nobody spoke during the counting. The second jump landed them in water. Same coordinates as the silo complex, but this reality's Iowa sat under 20 feet of brackish flood. Current strong enough to sweep someone away if they weren't ready. Mark grabbed the nearest child, maybe 7 years old, screaming, and held him above the surface, while Eve frantically transmuted debris into floating platforms. The GDA soldiers formed a human chain, pulling stragglers toward anything solid. They salvaged 36. A mother drowned, searching for her son. The son was already safe, clinging to a doctor's back. She didn't know. Just dove under and never came back up. Mark found her body later tangled in submerged fence wire. Brought her to the surface. Someone asked if they should bury her. Stedman said no. Too much effort, too little time, and they were leaving this reality in minutes anyway. They wrapped her in a torn jacket and left her floating. The third jump put them on solid ground, but the air tasted like copper, and 3 people immediately started vomiting blood. Some kind of atmospheric toxin, nothing life-threatening, but enough to make breathing painful. Eve sealed everyone inside a dome of purified air she could barely maintain. Her hands shook, her nose bled. Mark caught her when she swayed. "I'm fine," she said. "You're not. Doesn't matter." She pushed him away, focused back on the dome. The barrier flickered, stabilized. "How long do we have?" Stedman checked his scanner. The dimensional bleed was accelerating. The creature nobody called it by name anymore, as if naming it would summon it faster, was leaving traces in every reality they touched. Residual energy that pointed like arrows toward their current location. 20 minutes, he said. Maybe less. They used 18. The fourth reality was stable. Quiet. A variation of Earth where the silo complex existed, but sat empty. No family nearby, no complications, temperature mild, air clean, everything they needed. Except for the spherical void 300 yards north. Perfect circle carved from existence. 30 feet across. Dirt, grass, and bedrock, just gone edges smooth like glass. Inside the sphere, nothing. Not darkness, not air, just absence. Mark flew over it, looked down into the pit, and felt his stomach drop. He'd seen this before. Chicago, the carved blocks where buildings used to stand. It had been here, maybe hours ago, maybe days. But it had been here. "We can't stay," he said when he landed. Stedman was already giving orders. "Levy, one more jump. Find us somewhere it hasn't touched." Angstrom, sitting under guard with the spinal inhibitor active, actually laughed. Bitter and cracked. "You think there is somewhere? You think this thing doesn't leave traces everywhere it goes?" Blood crusted his upper lip from the strain of opening so many breaches in sequence. "Every time I open a door, I create a path. Every path connects. It's not following us through space, it's following us through the connections I'm making." "Then make one it can't follow." "There is no such thing." Angstrom's voice pitched up, teetering toward hysteria. "You want me to find a reality so divergent, so fundamentally different, that the dimensional coordinates won't align? We could end up in a universe made of acid, or one with no oxygen, or one where physics work differently and we just..." He snapped his fingers. "Stop existing." Stedman pulled his sidearm, didn't point it, just held it where Angstrom could see. "Then make a close one that buys us time. Because if you don't, I'm going to put you in the middle of that void and see how long you last alone." Mark watched this exchange with something cold settling in his chest. Part of him, the part that used to care about right and wrong, wanted to object. Wanted to say, "You can't threaten someone into cooperation. That's not who we are." But he didn't, because another part of him, growing louder every hour, thought, why not? Why shouldn't Angstrom suffer? Why shouldn't the man who opened the door to annihilation face consequences? Eve appeared at his shoulder. "You're thinking something bad." "No, I'm not. I can see it on your face." "You're thinking about letting Cecil shoot him." Mark didn't deny it. "Would that be wrong?" "Yes." "Why?" He turned to her. 6 billion dead." Angstrom pulled the trigger. Why does he get to keep breathing? Because killing him doesn't bring them back. It just makes you someone else. Maybe I need to be someone else. The words came out before he could stop them. Maybe who I was doesn't work in this version of reality. Eve stared at him, started to respond, stopped. Finally just said, "Get some rest, Mark. Don't say I'm tired. Don't make excuses for this." "Then don't give me reasons to." She walked away before he could answer. Angstrom opened the 5th breach 30 minutes later. Coordinates chosen for maximum stability and minimum prior traffic. The survivors filed through one by one, each person checked off by Rodriguez as they crossed. 36 souls moving like ghosts. This reality's version of Iowa looked almost normal. Farmland, clouds, a highway visible in the distance with actual traffic moving along it. For half a second, Mark let himself hope. Then the sky tore. Not a micro fracture, not a signature bleed. A full rip 6 feet across, hanging in the air like a wound that refused to heal. Through it came pressure. Weight. The sense of something massive pressing against the barrier between dimensions. And laughter, high-pitched, delighted, distant, but getting closer. "Move!" Stedman didn't wait for questions. Back through now. Chaos. The survivors scattered. Some ran toward the breach Angstrom had made. Some froze. One woman just sat down in the grass and started praying. Mark grabbed the nearest cluster of them, 4, maybe 5, and bodily threw them toward the opening. Eve was doing the same, using her power to shove entire groups through the air. The GDA soldiers formed a line, weapons up, even though bullets wouldn't stop what was coming. The rip in the sky widened. Something pink flickered at the edges. "Levy, close it!" Stedman shouted into his comm. "I'm trying the dimensional pressure. It's fighting me." Mark looked back at the tear. Saw an arm reach through. Small, childlike. It waved once, lazy and experimental, like testing water temperature. Then it withdrew. The laughter stopped. The pressure vanished. The rip sealed itself as if it had never been. Silence. 34 survivors huddled on the other side of Angstrom's breach, back in the fourth reality with the sphere void. 2 had been trampled in the panic. 1 was unconscious. The other would probably die from internal injuries before morning. Stedman did the count without expression. Checked his scanner. The readings were worse. Much worse. The creature wasn't just following anymore. It was testing barriers, finding weak points, learning. It knows we're running, Rodriguez said quietly. It doesn't know anything, Stedman corrected. It's reacting to stimulus. We leave traces, it follows traces. Basic predator behavior. With respect, sir, basic predators don't punch holes between dimensions. Stedman didn't argue. He turned to Angstrom. How many more jumps can you make before you collapse? The man's face was gray veins standing out on his forehead like cables. 2, maybe 3 if you don't care about accuracy. I care about distance. Then 1. Angstrom coughed, spat blood. 1 big jump. Somewhere so far off the baseline that it'll take that thing days to follow the trail. But it'll cost. Define cost. Energy. I'll need to tap deeper into the dimensional network than I ever have. Could destabilize local reality. Could kill me. Could drop us somewhere worse than here. He met Stedman's eyes. And I want something in return. You don't get terms. You get options. Then here are my options. Angstrom's smile was a rictus of pain and defiance. I make the jump and guarantee survival for myself. Or I close up shop and we all die together when that thing comes through. Your choice. Mark moved before thinking. Crossed the distance, grabbed Angstrom by the throat, lifted him off the ground. The spinal inhibitor should have paralyzed the man, but it must have been damaged during one of the transits, because Angstrom was still moving, still smiling through the chokehold. Make the jump. Each word came out between gasps. Mark, Eve's voice behind him. Or what? Angstrom wheezed. You'll kill me. You need me. You all need me. I'm the only... Mark squeezed harder. Watched Angstrom's face turn purple. Watched the fear finally break through the smugness. Invincible. Stedman's voice cut through the red haze. Put him down. Mark held on for 3 more seconds. Long enough to feel Angstrom's pulse hammering against his palm. Long enough to imagine just pressing a little harder, feeling the throat collapse, watching the light go out. Then he let go. Angstrom crumpled, gasping. You get one thing, Stedman said to the man on the ground. You make the jump. You get us somewhere stable. And in return, I don't execute you for cowardice and extortion. That's the deal. You can't... Stedman aimed his pistol at Angstrom's knee. I can. I will. And after I shoot your knee, I'll shoot the other one. Then, we'll carry you through whatever breach I force you to open. You'll live. You'll just wish you hadn't. He didn't blink. So yes or no? Angstrom stared at the gun, at Stedman's face, at Mark still standing over him with fists clenched. Yes, he whispered. Good. Stedman holstered the weapon. You have 10 minutes to prep. Then we jump and we don't stop until we're somewhere that thing won't find us for at least 72 hours. He walked away, already barking orders at Rodriguez about equipment loadout. Mark stood there looking at his hands. They were shaking. From rage or adrenaline or shame, he couldn't tell anymore. Maybe all 3. Eve didn't say anything, just put a hand on his arm. Gentle. Not pulling him away or pulling him back, just there. The sky above them was clear. No tears, no pressure, no laughter. But somewhere in the dimensional void, Kid Buu had caught their scent again. It wasn't chasing anymore. It was closing in. And the distance between hunter and prey was measured in hours now, not days. Angstrom opened the final breach exactly 10 minutes later. Big one, he'd said. Coordinates so divergent, it would take significant effort to track. The survivors went through. Mark went last, turning back one more time to look at the sphere void. The perfect absence where something had been. Where something might be again soon. Then he stepped through and felt reality shift around him like a coat that didn't quite fit. On the other side, mountains. Snow. A facility built into the rock face that looked military but abandoned. The kind of place that should have been secure. Should have been. Rodriguez scanned the structure. Readings clear. No toxins, no radiation, no. She stopped. Checked her equipment again. Sir, there's a residual signature here too. Old, maybe a week, but it matches. Stedman closed his eyes for exactly 1 second. Open them. It was here, Mark said. Not a question. It was here. They stood in the snow and understood. It wasn't following them anymore. It was waiting. The facility had been a weapons research station. Cold War era, judging by the architecture. Concrete bunkers carved into mountainside, reinforced doors hanging open on rusted hinges. Inside, broken equipment, frozen corpses in lab coats that had been here for decades. And one signature, old but present. The same perfect absence they'd found everywhere else. It had been here too. Cecil made the call within 5 minutes of arrival. We split, he said to the assembled group. 34 exhausted faces staring back at him. Half go with Rodriguez, find shelter deeper in the complex. Half stay here with me and prep for evac. Evac to where someone asked. A man, maybe 30s, GDA tech, whose name Cecil hadn't bothered learning. Somewhere else. Cecil checked his scanner. The dimensional pressure was building again. Faster this time. Levy opens a door in 20 minutes. Anyone not ready gets left behind. Silence. Then you can't just... I can. Cecil met the man's eyes. You want to debate it, do it while moving. Rodriguez, take the wounded, the medical personnel, anyone who can't contribute to immediate survival. Get them underground and barricaded. Everyone else, you're with me. Mark stepped forward. We should keep the group together. We should keep them alive. Cecil turned away from him. If that thing comes through while we're all clustered, it kills everyone in one strike. Split gives us options. Options? Mark's tone was acid. You mean sacrifices? I mean arithmetic. Cecil started walking toward the main bunker entrance. You don't like it, stay here and hold the door when it arrives. See how long your moral high ground lasts. Mark didn't follow. Eve did. She caught up to Cecil in the corridor, boots echoing on the concrete. He's right, you know. This is necessary. Cecil stopped, turned, studied her face. You're exhausted. When did you last sleep? I'm fine. You're swaying on your feet. Your nose has been bleeding for an hour. You're one transmission away from collapse. He paused. So when I open that door in 20 minutes, are you going to be able to create a barrier? Keep the edges stable so nobody gets cut in half during transit. Eve's jaw tightened. Yes. You're lying. I can do it. At what cost? She didn't answer. Cecil watched her for another moment, then nodded. Get the wounded ready to move. Do what you can. Don't do more than that. He left her standing there. The group split. 17 with Rodriguez heading down into the facility's lower levels. 17 with Cecil prepping equipment for extraction. Mark helped organize supplies without speaking, face-blank movements, mechanical. Angstrom sat against a wall under guard spinal inhibitor, active face gray, with exhaustion. Every portal took more out of him. Soon he'd be useless. Cecil had maybe 3 more transits before the man's body gave out completely. Acceptable losses. 15 minutes passed. The sky outside tore open. Not a micro-fracture. Not a test. A full rip 20 feet across, hanging above the facility like a mouth. Through it came pink light, and that sound high-pitched, delighted wrong in ways that made teeth ache. Kid Buu dropped through. It landed in the snow 50 yards from the bunker entrance and immediately looked around with those empty eyes. Scanning, searching. It tilted its head, giggled, and raised one hand. Energy gathered in its palm. Move! Cecil's voice cut through the paralysis. Everyone inside now. The 17 with him scattered. Some toward the bunker. Some just ran blind panic, overriding sense. Kid Buu tracked the movement with interest, like a cat watching birds. Then it threw the blast. Not at the bunker, at the runners. The explosion carved a sphere from the mountainside. Rock, snow, and 3 human bodies just gone. Erased from existence in a flash of pink light. The shockwave threw everyone else to the ground. Mark was moving before the dust settled. He launched himself at Kid Buu, covering the distance in a heartbeat, shoulder-checking the creature with enough force to crater concrete. Kid Buu bounced, tumbled through snow, came up laughing. Mark pressed the assault. Fist to face. Elbow to ribs, knee to sternum. Each hit landed with sonic booms, but the creature just kept regenerating, kept smiling, kept treating this like a game. It stretched an arm 30 feet, wrapped it around Mark's torso, and slammed him into the ground hard enough to crack bedrock. Then it wound up for another blast. Levy, Cecil dragged Angstrom upright. Open it, now! I can't, the pressure from that thing is... Cecil put his pistol against Angstrom's temple. Open it! Angstrom's eyes went wide, terrified. He raised shaking hands and began the sequence. The portal tore open inside the bunker. Unstable, edges flickering. Through it, another version of Earth coordinates chosen for speed, not safety. Could be toxic, could be underwater. Didn't matter. Through! Cecil shouted. Everyone through! The group hesitated, looking at the unstable portal, looking at Mark still fighting outside, looking at each other. Cecil grabbed the nearest person, a woman maybe 50 civilian, and physically threw her through the opening. She screamed. Vanished. The rest moved. Outside, Kid Buu had grown bored with Mark. It looked toward the bunker, toward the scrambling figures, and began gathering energy for something bigger. Much bigger. The sphere in its hand grew to the size of a car. Then a house. Eve appeared in the bunker entrance. Cecil saw her and knew immediately what she was going to do. Don't! Too late. She raised both hands. Pink energy exploded outward, forming a dome over the entire facility. Solid matter created from nothing molecules rearranged into a barrier that could maybe withstand what was coming. The strain hit her instantly. Blood poured from her nose, her ears. Her legs buckled, but she stayed upright through sheer force of will. Kid Buu released the blast. It hit Eve's barrier like a hammer hitting glass. The dome held for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for most of the group to scramble through the portal. Long enough for Mark to pull himself from the crater and start running. Then it shattered. The overflow blast hit Eve directly. She flew backward through the bunker entrance, impacted concrete wall hard enough to leave cracks. Slid to the floor. Didn't move. Mark grabbed her. Felt for pulse. Found it thready and weak. Blood everywhere. He looked up at Cecil. Get her through, Cecil said. What about... I'll get Rodriguez's group. You get her out. Go. Mark hesitated for half a second. Then he scooped Eve up and dove through the portal. Cecil was already running for the lower levels, boots pounding on concrete. Behind him, Kid Buu entered the bunker. Just walked in, casual, looking around like a tourist. It poked a frozen corpse, giggled when the body shattered, then wandered deeper. Cecil reached the stairs, took them 3 at a time. Found Rodriguez herding the 17 wounded through a service tunnel. Levy opened an exit, she asked. Unstable. Maybe 5 minutes before it collapses. Can they move? Rodriguez looked at her charges. 2 on stretchers, 3 barely conscious, the rest walking wounded. Not fast enough. Cecil did the math. 17 people. Maybe 3 could make it to the portal in time. The rest would be trapped when it closed. Trapped with that thing hunting through the corridors. He made the decision. Get the ones who can run, he said quietly. The ones who can't. Rodriguez understood. Her face went pale, but she nodded. Started sorting. Pulled the 6 most mobile aside. The rest looked at her with dawning comprehension. No. One of them, a doctor, the one who'd tried to save Patricia Chen. No, you can't. I'm sorry, Rodriguez said, and meant it. Cecil didn't wait for arguments. He grabbed the 6 and moved Rodriguez right behind him. The 11 left behind started shouting, begging. One tried to follow, collapsed after 3 steps. Cecil didn't look back. They hit the main corridor at a run. The portal was still open, but flickering badly now. Angstrom must have let it go after everyone else went through. It would collapse any second. Kid Buu appeared at the far end of the hall, not rushing, not attacking, just standing there, looking at them with those empty eyes, tilting its head like it was thinking about something. Then it smiled and raised its hand. Cecil shoved the 6 toward the portal. Run! They ran, scattered in every direction. Kid Buu tracked one, a young man, GDA tech, and fired a small blast. Precise, surgical. The tech's upper body just ceased to exist. The legs took 2 more steps before toppling. 5 left running. The portal flickered, shrinking. Cecil grabbed Rodriguez, threw her through. Grabbed 2 others, pushed them after. The last 2 dove through on their own, just as the edges collapsed inward. Cecil turned back. Kid Buu was 10 feet away, still smiling, still watching. Cecil pulled his pistol. Knew it was useless. Did it anyway. Kid Buu cocked its head, curious. Then the floor beneath Cecil's feet vanished. Not destroyed, just gone, replaced by void. He fell through into another dimension. Angstrom's doing the man must have opened a pinpoint extraction portal at the last second. Cecil hit grass on the other side, rolled, came up with pistol still raised. No pink creature, no bunker. Just open sky, and 19 people collapsed in exhaustion around him. 19 out of 43 who'd started this morning. Rodriguez was crying. Quiet professional, but crying. The 6 they'd saved from the lower levels looked shell-shocked. Mark knelt beside Eve's unconscious form, checking her pulse again and again, like he didn't trust it. Cecil holstered his weapon, did a head count, verified the number, 19. 11 left to die in the facility, 3 erased by the initial blast, 5 lost to various causes during transit, plus Patricia Chen, plus the drowning victims, plus everyone from the fire world. The math was getting worse. He found Angstrom 10 yards away, unconscious foam at the corners of his mouth. The extraction portal had nearly killed him. Maybe next time it would. I'm at 10. Cecil pulled out his scanner, checked for dimensional pressure. Nothing. Clean. Whatever world they'd landed in it was far enough off the trail that there was no immediate signature. But it wouldn't last. It never did. The thing had learned the taste now. Learned how they moved, how they ran. It was faster each time, more precise, less random. Eventually, there would be nowhere left to run to. Cecil sat down in the grass. Let himself breathe. Just for a moment. Mark appeared beside him. Didn't sit. Just stood there, looking at nothing. You left them, Mark said. Not angry, not accusing, just stating fact. Yes. 11 people. Yes. Mark was quiet for a long time. Then, I would have done the same. Cecil looked up at him. Saw something broken in the kid's expression. Something that hadn't been there a week ago. I know, Cecil said. Mark walked away. Eve woke up 3 hours later. Couldn't move her legs. Couldn't transmute matter without screaming from the effort. She looked at Cecil with eyes that understood. How many? She asked. 19 left. She closed her eyes. Not enough. It's what we have. Rodriguez reported in. No comm equipment. No medical supplies beyond basic first aid. Food for maybe 2 days if they rationed hard. And somewhere in the dimensional void, Kid Buu was learning. Learning that prey ran. Learning that portals meant escape. Learning to hunt faster. The world they'd landed in had breathable air and no immediate threats. That made it luxury. 19 bodies scattered across a field. Some sleeping, some just staring at nothing. Eve lay near a stream, conscious but unable to walk legs, still refusing to respond. Rodriguez checked her scanner every 10 minutes, waiting for the dimensional pressure to return. It always did. Stedman sat with his back against a boulder, counting supplies. 3 protein bars, 1 water canteen half full, medical kit with bandages but no antibiotics, comm array damaged beyond field repair, 19 mouths to feed, maybe 48 hours before dehydration became critical. He was allocating rations when the shouting started. 2 men, GDA soldiers, technically under his command, facing off against a civilian. Something about food distribution. The civilian, middle-aged, with a limp, claimed soldiers got double portions. The soldiers claimed combat personnel needed calories. Both were right. Both were angry. Stedman stood, walked over. "What's the problem?" The civilian turned on him. "Your people are hoarding supplies. We're all starving and they..." "Combat personnel get priority rations," Stedman cut in. "They need functional muscle mass to protect the group when that thing comes through again. We're all going to die anyway, why should they? Because if they're weak when it arrives, we die faster." Stedman's tone could have frozen water. "You want equality? Fine. Everyone gets nothing. We all starve together. Or you accept that some people are more useful than others right now, and we maximize survival time." The civilian's face went red. "You can't just..." One of the soldiers stepped forward, hand on his sidearm. "Step back." The civilian saw the gun, saw Stedman's expression, backed away, muttering. Stedman addressed the group, voice carrying across the field. "New rules. Food and water distributed by me. Medical attention prioritized by injury, severity, and contribution capacity. Anyone who can work works. Anyone who can't gets minimum rations until they can." He paused. "Anyone with a problem takes it up with me directly. Anyone who tries to redistribute supplies on their own gets restrained." Silence. A woman near the back, one of the doctors, started to object. Stopped when she met his eyes. Mark appeared at Stedman's elbow. "You're rationing based on usefulness." "Yes, there's a kid over there. Maybe 8 years old. Under your system, he gets minimum rations because he can't work." "Correct. That's..." Mark stopped, visibly forced himself to continue calmly. "He's a child. He's a mouth that consumes resources without contributing output." Stedman kept his voice low. "I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying it's arithmetic. We have X amount of food, Y amount of time before the next transit. Z people with different caloric needs. If I distribute equally, the soldiers weaken, we lose defensive capacity, everyone dies. If I prioritize function, some suffer now, but the group lasts longer. There has to be another way. Find one." Stedman met his gaze. "You've got 20 minutes before I implement rations. Come up with a better system that doesn't kill us all, I'll use it." Mark stared at him, fists clenching, unclenching. "You're becoming the thing you're trying to protect us from." "No. I'm becoming the thing that keeps you alive long enough to have the luxury of moral outrage." Stedman turned away. 20 minutes. He found Rodriguez by the stream, scanning for dimensional anomalies. Anything. Traces. Same pattern as before. It's searching but hasn't locked onto us yet. She hesitated. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. Could be hours, could be minutes." "And Levy?" Stedman glanced at Angstrom. The man sat under guard, spinal inhibitor, still active, face gray. Every transit damaged him further. Maybe 2 more before his nervous system gave out completely. "He's functional," Stedman said. "That's all that matters." Rodriguez didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Eve called out from her position by the water, weak voice but urgent. Stedman approached, crouched beside her. "I can try to transmute food," she said. "Water to nutrients, dirt to protein. It won't be much, but..." "No, I can..." "You can barely stay conscious." You try to restructure matter in your condition, you'll burn out whatever's left of your nervous system. He studied her face. Pale, shaking. When was the last time you ate? I'm fine. That's not an answer. She didn't respond. Stedman pulled one of the protein bars from his jacket, broke it in half, handed her one piece. Eat. That's an order. The others are my problem. You're a strategic asset. Strategic assets don't starve. He stood. Eat it or I'll have Rodriguez force feed you. He walked away before she could argue. Mark was by the boulder, staring at the ration list. The 8-year-old boy sat nearby, watching the adults with those two old eyes children got when they'd seen things they shouldn't. I can't solve it, Mark said quietly. Your math. I've been trying for 15 minutes, and every scenario ends with someone suffering. Welcome to leadership. Is this what my father saw when he made his choices? Mark's voice was hollow. Is this what broke Nolan Grayson into someone who could? He stopped, started again. I always thought there was a right answer. That if you just tried hard enough, cared enough, you could save everyone. There isn't. You can't. Stedman sat beside him. Your father's mistake wasn't seeing hard truths. It was deciding those truths meant compassion was weakness. Don't confuse the two. How do you keep from... Mark gestured vaguely, becoming that. You remember that every choice has a cost. You pay it with full awareness, and you never convince yourself it was easy. Stedman looked at the boy, at the others. The moment you start believing this is right instead of necessary, you've lost. Movement in the sky, not a tear, not a signature. A streak, silver blue, coming fast. Mark was on his feet instantly. Incoming. The streak resolved into a shape. Humanoid. Massive. It hit the ground 100 yards out with enough force to crater dirt, then straightened. Viltrumite, but not one Mark recognized. The figure was tall, heavily muscled, wearing a bodysuit with a 3-stripe insignia across the chest. Dark hair, thick mustache, expression of absolute authority. He scanned the gathered humans with the same clinical interest someone might show observing ants. Invincible, the Viltrumite said, voice like grinding stone. I received reports of dimensional instability originating from this sector. Curious to find you alive. His gaze swept over the 19 huddled survivors. And this is what remains of humanity. Mark positioned himself between the newcomer and the group. Thrag. Grand Regent Thrag, the Viltrumite corrected. Given the circumstances, I'll allow the informality. He took a step forward. Mark tensed. Thrag stopped smile without warmth. Relax. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have seen me coming. Stedman stepped forward. Cecil Stedman, Global Defense Agency. Thrag studied him. The one who arms humans to fight threats they can't comprehend. Futile work. But I suppose someone has to waste the effort. He gestured at the field. What happened to your planet? Dimensional breach. An entity came through. We evacuated what we could. How many? 19. Thrag actually laughed. Short bark of genuine amusement. Out of 6 billion. Magnificent failure. The laughter died. And this entity, is it still a threat? It's hunting us across dimensions. Then you've brought your problem to other worlds. Thrag's expression went cold. Clever. Spread the damage. Make it someone else's concern. Mark's jaw tightened. We didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You chose survival over containment. Understandable. Also unacceptable. Thrag crossed his arms. The Viltrumite Empire has no interest in interdimensional predators loose in our territory. You've created a strategic problem. We'll handle it, Mark said. Will you? Thrag glanced at the exhausted survivors, at Eve's immobile form, at the pitiful stack of supplies. With what resources? What plan your 20 refugees running from something you can't fight, leaving contamination wherever you go? Stedman spoke before Mark could respond. What do you want? Practical question. I appreciate that. Thrag's attention shifted back to him. I want this threat eliminated, preferably before it destabilizes more realities under my jurisdiction. Since you seem incapable, I'm considering whether Viltrumite intervention serves Imperial interests. And if it doesn't, then I leave you to die and seal this sector against further dimensional travel. Problem contained. Mark moved forward. You can't. Thrag's hand was around his throat before the sentence finished. Lifted him off the ground, effortlessly. Can't, boy. I've earned my command through conquest and blood. I deserve to lead because I have the strength to make hard decisions. All you deserve, he tightened his grip, is to understand your place. Mark clawed at the hand. Couldn't break the grip. Vision starting to gray. Let him go. Stedman's voice, calm. You've made your point. Thrag held for another 3 seconds, then dropped Mark. The younger Viltrumite hit the ground, gasping. Here's my offer, Thrag said to the group at large. I provide resources, transport, protection from standard threats. In exchange, you work for me. Specifically, you help me understand this entity's weaknesses and how to exploit them. Once it's dealt with, humanity's remnant becomes subjects of the Empire. Slaves, someone said from the back. Citizens, Thrag corrected. Useful ones. Better than your current trajectory toward extinction. He looked at Stedman. You're the decision maker. You have 30 seconds. Stedman did the math. 19 people. No supplies. No defensible position. Kid Buu closing in faster each time. They'd last maybe another 2 transits before someone died from starvation or exposure or simple exhaustion. Thrag was offering a lifeline. A poisoned one, but survival nonetheless. What guarantees? Stedman started. None. You take my word or you die here. Thrag checked the sky. 20 seconds. Mark pushed himself up. Don't! We can't survive another week alone, Stedman said quietly. You know that. I know that. He knows that. He met Thrag's eyes. Terms. You provide food, water, medical supplies, and tactical support. We provide information and cooperation. No indentured servitude. No forced labor beyond reasonable contribution to group survival. You're negotiating from a position of absolute weakness. I'm establishing that we're not cattle. Stedman's tone didn't waver. If all you wanted was meat shields, you'd have said so. You want intelligence, strategy. That requires functional minds, which requires humane treatment. Thrag studied him. Something like respect flickered across his face. 5 seconds. Deal or no deal? Deal, for now. Thrag gestured and 2 other Viltrumites descended from the cloud's elite guard, judging by their insignia. Gather your people. My ship is in orbit. You have 10 minutes to prepare for transit. The Viltrumites began organizing the survivors with brutal efficiency. No gentleness, but no unnecessary cruelty. Just movement. Process. Mark grabbed Stedman's arm. You just sold us to the Empire. I bought us time. Stedman kept his voice low. We're not strong enough to fight Thrag. We're not fast enough to outrun Kid Buu. This is the only move that doesn't end in everyone dead by tomorrow. There has to be another way. Then you should have found it in 20 minutes. Mark stared at him. What happened to never convincing yourself it was easy? I didn't say it was easy. Stedman pulled free. I said it was necessary. Learn the difference. He walked away to organize the evacuation. Angstrom, still sitting under guard, started laughing. Quiet and bitter. You wanted to see what else was out there. Mark, congratulations. You found it. Mark didn't respond. Just helped Eve to her feet, supporting her weight as the Viltrumites prepared to move the group skyward. Rodriguez checked her scanner one last time. The dimensional signature was intensifying. Kid Buu had found the trail again. And somewhere above, in a ship built for conquest, Thrag calculated how to turn catastrophe into advantage for an empire that had never cared whether humans lived or died. 19 refugees became Imperial assets. The math didn't get better. It just changed forms. The Viltrumite ship orbited a dead moon. Sterile corridors, artificial gravity, temperature controlled to Imperial standard, which meant uncomfortably warm for humans. Cecil stood in the command deck watching Thrag's tactical officer plot coordinates. Holographic displays showed dimensional bleed patterns, energy signatures, probability matrices. Viltrumite technology made GDA equipment look like cave drawings. "Your creature is predictable," Thrag said from his command throne. "It follows residual energy, dimensional scarring. Every time your pet opens a door, he leaves a trail." His gaze shifted to Angstrom, restrained in a force harness nearby. "Exploitable. You're proposing bait," Cecil said. "I'm proposing we stop running and start managing the threat." Thrag gestured at the hologram. "We select a reality, empty or near empty. Open multiple breaches in sequence. Create a trail so obvious the creature can't ignore it. While it's occupied destroying an abandoned world, we move the assets." He paused. "The survivors somewhere the signature won't carry. And if it doesn't take the bait, then we repeat until it does. Or until you run out of dimensional refugees to protect." Invincible entered the command deck supporting Adam Eve. She could walk now, barely with assistance. Her face still carried the gray pallor of someone who'd burned too much of themselves. "You're talking about using people as lures," Invincible said. "I'm talking about using portals as lures. The people are incidental." Thrag stood. "But if you'd prefer, we can volunteer one of your group to stand in the decoy reality, make the signature stronger, more personal." Silence. Cecil ran the numbers. They had maybe one more transit before dimensional fatigue killed Angstrom outright. After that, they'd be trapped in whatever reality they chose. If the creature found them there, they'd die. No escape. No options. "How long would the decoy reality buy us?" Cecil asked. "Unknown. Hours. Maybe days if we're fortunate and it's thorough in its destruction. And the survivors? Where do they go during this?" "Viltrumite outpost. Sector 7. Minimal personnel. Sufficient supplies." Thrag's expression made clear this was generosity by his standards. "They'll be watched, fed, given basic medical attention. In exchange, they provide intelligence on the creature's behavior patterns. Prisoners, guests under strict supervision." Thrag smiled without warmth. "The distinction is semantic." Invincible stepped forward. "We're not handing people over to... We're accepting tactical support," Cecil interrupted. "In exchange for cooperation." He met Invincible's eyes, held them. "Unless you have a better option." Invincible's fists clenched. No argument came. "Levy," Cecil turned to Angstrom. "Can you open sequential breaches to the same reality without killing yourself?" Angstrom's laugh was brittle. "Define killing. Because I'm fairly certain another 3 or 4 transits will liquefy my nervous system. But if that's acceptable collateral damage for your brilliant plan, yes or no?" "Yes, barely." Blood vessels stood out on Angstrom's forehead. "But here's the interesting part. You need me functional, which means you need me willing. So what am I getting out of this suicide run?" "You get to keep breathing," Thrag said. "Or I can space you now and find another method." Angstrom met his eyes, saw something there that made him pale. "Fine, I'll open your doors. But when this goes wrong, and it will remember I told you so." Cecil pulled Invincible aside, kept his voice low. "I need you functional for this. Can you do that?" "You're seriously considering..." "I'm considering keeping people alive. That means making a choice between bad and worse. You want to object? Fine. After everyone's safe." "Safe?" Invincible's tone was acid. "We're on a Viltrumite warship, plotting to use dimensional refugees as..." as necessary components of a survival strategy. Cecil didn't blink. You think I like it? You think any of this sits well? We're past the point where clean hands matter. What matters is tomorrow. And tomorrow requires this. Invincible stared at him. Something in his expression shifted, hardened. When did you become practical? Around the time Earth died and I had to choose who ate and who starved. Cecil straightened. You're learning the same lesson. Question is whether you learn it fast enough to save anyone. Invincible looked away, fists still clenched. What do you need me to do? Stand ready. If the creature comes through before we finish the transit, you buy time. Same as always. And if it goes after the decoy, then you let it. Cecil's voice dropped lower. That's the part where you prove you've learned. They prepped for 4 hours. Thrag's tactical team selected a reality Earth variant Industrial Revolution era population, under 1 million concentrated in coastal regions. Dimensional coordinates allowed for easy access, minimal risk to Imperial interests. The survivors gathered in the ship's cargo bay. 17 now. 2 had died from injuries during the evacuation to orbit. Rodriguez organized them by mobility. Those who could move fast in one group, wounded and elderly in another. Adam Eve sat against a bulkhead, trying to transmute a food ration into something more palatable. The matter flickered, destabilized, reformed as something gray and inert. She stared at it with hollow eyes. I can't do it anymore, she said to no one in particular. I try to change the structure and my hands just stop working. One of the doctors crouched beside her. Your nervous system needs rest. Weeks, maybe months. You've exceeded human limits. I'm not human. Close enough that the same rules apply. The doctor checked her pulse. You keep pushing, you'll burn out completely. Vegetative state. Permanent. Eve leaned her head back against the wall. Noted. Angstrom began the sequence. First breach opened in the cargo bay. Shimmering doorway to the Viltrumite outpost. Sterile facility carved into an asteroid. Guards waiting. The wounded went through first, supported by medics, then the civilians, one by one crossing into captivity, disguised as sanctuary. Second breach opened simultaneously on the command deck. This one led to the decoy reality. Atmospheric sensors confirmed breathable air, stable gravity. Angstrom held it open, veins bulging foam at the corners of his mouth. Residue is building, the tactical officer reported. Dimensional scarring visible across 3 adjacent realities. Good. Thrag studied the readings. It will smell the blood. Third breach, 4th, 5th. All leading to the same decoy coordinates. All leaving trails like breadcrumbs. Angstrom screamed, not loud. Just a thin sound of agony that shouldn't come from a human throat. Blood ran from his nose, his ears. The spinal inhibitor sparked and died. He collapsed forward, but the breaches held. Get him through, Cecil ordered. GD. A soldiers grabbed Angstrom, dragged him toward the outpost portal. His eyes rolled back, breathing shallow. Invincible watched the decoy breach. Someone should monitor it, make sure the bait actually works. Negative, Thrag said. We close all portals once the creature enters the decoy reality. Anyone there gets trapped. I can handle it. Mark Eve started. I'm fast enough to get out. You know I am. He looked at Cecil. If we're going to do this, we should confirm it works. Otherwise, we're guessing. Cecil studied him. Understood what he wasn't saying. Invincible needed to see the consequence. Needed to watch something die because of their plan. Needed to carry that weight. 5 minutes, Cecil said. You observe, you report, you leave. No heroics. Understood. Invincible stepped through the breach into the decoy reality. He landed on cobblestone. Gas lamps lit the street. Horse-drawn carriages. People in period dress stopping to stare at the flying man who'd appeared from nothing. Industrial Revolution. 1860-something based on the architecture. A city London variant maybe, or close enough. People living their lives unaware that they'd just become bait. Invincible flew up, surveyed the area. Maybe 500,000 in this city alone, more scattered across the countryside. Families, children, workers, all real, all alive, all bait. His comm crackled. Invincible. Dimensional signature incoming. You have 60 seconds to extract. He didn't move. Watched the sky. Saw it tear. Kid Buu dropped through like a stone. Landed in the middle of a marketplace. People screamed, scattered. The creature giggled and raised one hand. The blast carved a sphere from the city center. Buildings, people, cobblestone, all gone. Perfect absence. Invincible dove. Grabbed 3 people from the edge of the expanding destruction. Flew them toward the portal coordinates. Dropped them. Went back for more. Kid Buu noticed him. Tilted its head. Smiled. Invincible extract. Cecil's voice. Portal closing in 30 seconds. He grabbed 2 more. A child and her mother, threw them towards safety. Turned back. Kid Buu was already preparing another attack. Larger. The sphere of energy grew to the size of a cathedral. 15 seconds. Invincible flew for the portal. Behind him, Kid Buu released the blast. The explosion swallowed city blocks. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The screaming cut off in an instant. He dove through the breach. It sealed behind him. Silence in the command deck. Everyone staring. He'd brought back 5 people out of hundreds of thousands. They clustered together, terrified, speaking a language none of the crew understood. One of the soldiers moved to restrain them. Invincible held up a hand. They're civilians, not threats. His voice sounded distant even to himself. Get them to the outpost. Medical attention. Food. The soldiers complied. The 5 were escorted away, still crying, still speaking in panicked tones about demons and the end times. Thrag studied the sensor data. The creature is occupied, thorough in its destruction. We have perhaps 6 hours before it exhausts the available targets and resumes hunting. How many did we just kill? Adam, Eve's voice from the cargo bay entrance. She'd pulled herself upright, supporting her weight against the doorframe. No one answered. How many? Approximately 400,000, the tactical officer said. Based on population density and blast radius. Eve stared at Cecil, at Invincible. You murdered 400,000 people. We saved 17, Cecil said. You murdered. We bought time. Cecil didn't raise his voice. Time to move assets, establish defensive positions, and plan the next step. Those 400,000 were dead the moment we needed a decoy. Geography chose them. Geography. Eve's laugh was broken. You're blaming geography. I'm blaming reality. Cecil turned away. Blame me if you want. Hate me. Do it later. Right now we use the time they bought us. Eve collapsed. 2 medics caught her before she hit the deck, carried her toward medical bay. She didn't resist. Just went limp like something essential had broken inside. Invincible stood frozen. Watching his hands. They'd held 5 people. Saved 5. While 400,000 died because he'd agreed to this. Because he'd watched. Because he'd participated. You did what was necessary, Thrag said, not unkindly. Welcome to command. Invincible didn't respond. Couldn't. The weight was too much for words. Cecil checked his tactical display. The outpost showed 17 signatures plus 5 new arrivals. 22. Not much. But alive. He pulled up the sensor feed from the decoy reality. Kid Buu was still there. Still destroying. Methodical. Complete. It would raise every structure, erase every trace of civilization, and then resume the hunt. But not yet. They had time. He used it to plan the next step. The next sacrifice. The next calculation. Because that's what leadership was now. arithmetic written in corpses. Rodriguez appeared at his side. "Sir, dimensional readings. The residue from the breaches is stronger than predicted." "Define stronger." "It's not just in the decoy reality. It's bleeding back toward us, like..." She struggled for the words. "Like it learned the pattern. The energy signature from sequential portals. It's following the connections." Cecil felt something cold settle in his chest. "How long?" "Unknown, but it's adapting, learning." She met his eyes. The bait worked, but it taught the creature how we move. In the medical bay, Adam Eve regained consciousness. Tried to transmute a bandage into something useful. Failed. Her hands wouldn't respond. The cost of stopping. The cost of trying. The cost of existing in a world where arithmetic chose who lived. She closed her eyes and prayed to a god she didn't believe in anymore. In his cell, Angstrom laughed through broken teeth. "Told you it would go wrong." And somewhere in the decoy reality, Kid Buu finished carving the last city into nothing. Looked up at the sky, tilted its head, and reached toward the residue connecting this world to others. The creature was learning, and running was about to stop working. The plan was simple. Simple plans had fewer ways to fail. Angstrom would open one final doorway to a dead world reality designation, Null 7, chosen by Viltrumite survey teams decades ago. No atmosphere, no life, no resources worth claiming, just frozen rock under a dying sun. Then they'd seal it, permanently. The catch someone had to go through first. Create a strong enough residue signature that the creature would follow, and that someone had to survive long enough for the door to close behind it. Mark volunteered before anyone asked. "No." Stedman's response was immediate. "We need you functional after this. You're one of 3 Viltrumites cooperating with us. Losing you costs too much." "Then who?" Mark gestured at the assembled survivors in the Viltrumite ship's holding bay. 17 faces, exhausted, traumatized. Children, elderly, doctors. Pick someone. "Tell me who dies so the math works." "Silence." "I'll do it," Adam Eve said from her wheelchair. Her legs still wouldn't support weight. Her hands trembled when she tried to transmute anything larger than a water molecule. "I can create a barrier. Hold it while you close. You can barely stay conscious." Stedman cut her off. "Your nervous system is fried. You'd collapse before the creature even arrived." "Then modify the plan." Mark's voice carried an edge. "Make it so nobody has to be bait. There is no modification." Stedman pulled up the holographic display. Dimensional bleed patterns, energy signatures, probability matrices. The creature follows residue. Strong residue requires organic presence. Machines don't work. Drones don't work. It needs to smell something alive. He paused, met Mark's eyes. "Which brings us to Levy." Angstrom sat in his restraints, face gray veins, like cables under translucent skin. Every transit had damaged him further. Blood crusted his nostrils. His hands shook with palsy. "You want me to open the door and walk through it?" Not a question. Angstrom's voice was hoarse. "Create the signature. Lure it in. Then you close the door behind us both and leave me trapped with that thing." "Yes." "And what do I get?" "Nothing." Stedman's tone was flat. "You opened the first door. You brought it here. This is you closing the loop." Angstrom laughed. Wet, bitter. "You're asking me to commit suicide. I'm telling you the door gets opened either way. You can walk through voluntarily, or I'll have you thrown." Stedman gestured to the Viltrumite guards. "Your choice is the manner, not the outcome." Mark stepped forward. "There has to be another." "There isn't." Stedman didn't look at him. "We've run every scenario. This is the one where people live. Not everyone. Not cleanly, but some." Angstrom stared at the hologram, at the dead world coordinates, at his own shaking hands. "And if I refuse?" One of the Viltrumite guards moved, hand on weapon. "I see. Angstrom's smile was a rictus. Well then, let's get on with it. He turned to Mark. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To see what's out there. Congratulations, Invincible. You found something worse than your father. He meant Stedman. Mark knew he meant Stedman. But part of him wondered. They prepped for 30 minutes. Rodriguez configured the sensors to detect the creature's approach. The moment it entered Null 7, they'd have maybe 10 seconds to seal the doorway before it could reverse course. Eve worked from her chair using what little power remained to reinforce the door mechanism. Not restructuring dimensions, she couldn't do that, but creating molecular anchors that would make the closure more stable. Each transmission left her gasping. "Stop," one of the doctors said. "You're going to kill yourself." "Good." Eve didn't look up. "Then I won't have to remember." Angstrom prepared the sequence. Calculations scrawled on a data pad with shaking fingers. He checked them 3 times. The coordinates had to be perfect. 1 degree off and the door might open into a star. Or nowhere. Mark stood by watching, silent. Stedman addressed the survivors one final time. "After this, we relocate to the Viltrumite facility. Long-term. Possibly permanent. It's not home. It's not what any of us wanted. But it's survival." "What about Earth?" someone asked. "A woman, mid-30s, GDA analyst, gone." Stedman didn't soften it. "We're not going back. We're not rebuilding. We're starting over as a remnant population under Imperial protection. Accept it or don't. Either way, it's happening." The woman started to cry. Others joined, quiet, defeated. Mark looked away. The door opened. Angstrom stood at the threshold, dimensional energy crackling around his fingers. The strain was destroying him. Blood ran from his ears. His spine arched. The cybernetic support sparked and died. Beyond the doorway, darkness. Frozen wasteland. Null 7. "I want you to know," Angstrom said to Mark, "that I hate you. Genuinely. Completely. If I had the strength, I'd drag you through with me just to watch you die scared." Mark met his eyes. "I know. Good." Angstrom stepped through. The residue built immediately. Strong. Personal. Exactly what they needed. Rodriguez watched her scanner. Dimensional pressure increasing. It's noticed. They waited. 30 seconds. 60. Angstrom's signal flickered on the other side. Still alive. Barely. He'd collapsed in the frozen waste, unable to stand but breathing. "Movement," Rodriguez said. "Something's coming through adjacent dimensions. Big signature. It's..." The sky on Null 7 tore open. Kid Buu dropped through. Landed near Angstrom's prone form. Looked down at the man with those empty eyes. Angstrom laughed, blood bubbling from his lips. "Finally. Something honest." Kid Buu giggled, raised one hand. "Now," Stedman ordered. The technicians activated the closure sequence. The doorway began to shrink. Dimensional anchors engaging. Eve screamed from the effort of holding the molecular structure stable. Kid Buu noticed the closing door, tilted its head, started walking toward it. "Faster," Stedman's voice. Mark moved without thinking. Dove through the shrinking gap. Landed on Null 7's frozen surface. Positioned himself between the creature and the doorway. "Mark, no," Eve's voice distant. Kid Buu stopped, smiled at him. Like recognizing an old toy, Mark launched himself forward. Not to fight? To buy seconds. He grabbed the creature, used every ounce of Viltrumite strength to carry it backward away from the door. Kid Buu's body stretched, deformed, wrapped around him like rubber. Its face pressed close to his still smiling, and then it began to squeeze. Mark felt ribs crack, felt his left arm dislocate. The creature was stronger than anything he'd fought. Stronger than Omni-Man. Stronger than gravity. But it wasn't trying to kill him, just playing. The door was closing. 5 feet across. 4, 3. Eve's scream cut through the calm. "Get out, Mark! Get out!" He couldn't. Kid Buu had him wrapped too tight. Bones grinding. Vision going dark. Then Angstrom's hand grabbed his boot. Mark looked down. The man was barely conscious. Cybernetic spine completely dead. But he'd pulled himself across the ice using just his arms. "Go!" Angstrom wheezed. "Before I change my mind." He shoved. Hard. Harder than someone dying should be able to. Mark tumbled free. Kid Buu's grip loosened just enough. He flew for the door 2 feet wide now, shrinking fast. Behind him, Kid Buu turned back to Angstrom, the easy prey. Mark dove through the gap. It sealed. Silence. He hit the deck of the Viltrumite ship. Gasping. Ribs on fire, left arm hanging useless. Rodriguez was shouting numbers. Eve collapsed in her wheelchair, hands smoking from the molecular strain. Stedman stared at the sealed space where the door had been. "Confirmation," Stedman asked. "Dimensional bleed. Declining." Rodriguez's voice shook. "Residue fading. The signature's isolated on the other side. We're clean." "And Levy?" "Gone. No life signs." Mark pushed himself upright. Coughed blood. "He pushed me out. At the end. Angstrom pushed me." "Noted." Stedman turned away. Started issuing orders, relocation procedures, asset inventory, standard protocol, like they hadn't just left 2 beings to die in frozen darkness. Eve was crying, silent tears running down her face, not from pain, from something else. Mark sat on the deck and tried to remember who he used to be. Tried to recall the version of himself that believed in clean victories, in saving everyone. That person was gone, probably died with Earth. 1 week later, the Viltrumite facility on asteroid K7 wasn't a prison. Technically, it had beds, food, medical equipment. The 17 survivors occupied one wing of a structure built to house 500. Guards watched from a distance. Viltrumite soldiers who rotated shifts and never spoke to the humans except to give orders. Stedman established routines, work schedules, resource distribution, education for the 3 children, therapy sessions that nobody attended because there were no therapists, just a GDA soldier with a psychology manual who asked if anyone wanted to talk. Nobody did. Eve regained some motor function, could walk with assistance, couldn't transmute anything. The doctors said possibly permanent. She spent most days staring at walls. Rodriguez maintained comm equipment out of habit. There was nothing to communicate with. No Earth. No GDA headquarters. Just the facility network and occasional check-ins from Viltrumite Command. Mark helped with manual labor, moving supplies, reinforcing structure, anything that didn't require thinking. At night he lay awake and saw the same loop Angstrom's hand. The shove, the door closing. Kid Buu probably killed him in seconds. Probably didn't even understand it was killing something. Just playing with a toy until it broke. Mark told himself that was better than the alternative. Didn't help. 3 months later, Stedman stood in what passed for an office, reviewing long-term survival projections. 17 people, 3 children under 10, 2 elderly, 12 working age. Genetic diversity insufficient for multi-generational survival without outside intervention. He'd already broached the subject with Thrag. Controlled breeding programs, genetic screening, imperial oversight. Thrag had been amenable. More subjects meant more labor. More labor meant more use. Humanity's remnant would continue as property. Stedman filed the projection, moved to the next task. There was always a next task. Someone knocked. Mark entered without waiting for permission. Rodriguez detected something, he said, voice flat. Dimensional fluctuation, faint but present. Stedman felt something cold settle in his chest. Location, unknown, could be natural, could be residual bleed from previous transits, could be. It found a way. They stared at each other. "We sealed it," Mark said. "We closed the door. We closed one door." Stedman pulled up the sensor data. The fluctuation was minor. Barely registible, but present. Dimensions are infinite. It's not gone, just elsewhere. Then what was the point? Mark's voice carried an edge. Angstrom died. 400,000 died. All those people in the decoy reality. For what? For this. Stedman gestured at the facility, at the survivors beyond the walls. 17 people who wouldn't exist if we'd done nothing. It's not victory, it's not justice, it's arithmetic. Mark looked at him with something that might have been hatred or might have been understanding. Hard to tell anymore. We didn't win, Mark said quietly. No, Stedman agreed. We survived. That didn't mean we won. Mark left without another word. Stedman returned to his projections. Breeding schedules, resource allocation, long-term survival strategies for a species that had bet everything on tomorrow and lost most of it. Outside in the facility's common area, someone had started a memorial wall. Names of the dead, handwritten, incomplete. They didn't even know most of the names. Eve sat in front of it, hands in her lap, unable to contribute. Unable to change anything anymore. The children played a game in the corner, pretending to be heroes, saving the world. Nobody told them the world was gone. Rodriguez ran another scan. The fluctuation was still there, faint, persistent, like a heartbeat in the void. Somewhere in the dimensional fabric, Kid Buu existed. Maybe trapped, maybe free, maybe destroying other worlds, maybe sleeping. The universe was vast, infinite, full of doors, and they'd only closed one. The survivors of Earth lived on asteroid K7 under Viltrumite oversight. They ate, they worked, they breathed. Some called it survival, some called it purgatory. The distinction was semantic, and in the space between dimensions, something pink and childlike drifted through frozen darkness, looking for the next door, the next game, the next reality to unmake. It would find one eventually. It always did.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.